Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Fifer. Served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Download the Wendy's app today.
It is that time again. How are we doing here on a Wednesday? A pretty big game going on right now at American Family Field between the Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. Looks like another full house going on right now in American Family Field. They've had, around 40,000 people or so, I want to say. 4 of the last 5 games? Something along those lines. And Freddie Peralta not having a good game so far. Not having a good game so far is Freddie Peralta. Now down 5-1 are the Brewers here in the third inning. A bases clearing double by Ballesteros, who they just called up with the Ian Happ injury. He clears them. And it's 5-1 Cubs here in the third inning. Ballesteros, bases clearing double, man. That is a big hit for the Chicago Cubs. And before the show, Tommy Wirtz was hanging out in here watching the game a little bit, and Charlie obviously is here. And Charlie's a frustrated Cubs fan because his Cubs have lost the first 2 of this series. And this is a bigger game, I would say, for the Cubs than it is for the Brewers at this point. Because if the Cubs lose this game, they're down 3 coming out in Milwaukee, and that is a big difference than being down 1 game in the division to Milwaukee coming out. The Brewers, on the other hand, have already won this series. So if they were to lose this game, which never happens usually when Freddie Peralta's on the mound, but if they were to lose this game, then they still win the series. They're up by a game, still feel good. The Nationals are next. All is well in the world. So that's where we are right now. Charlie Usen, your thoughts, because we didn't really talk about last night's game at all to this point before we get into the show. We're not going to be talking a bunch about the Brewers, with the Brewers playing, obviously, at this point. But we will be talking more about the Brewers once this game is over for certain. Plus, Mitch Nellis will be doing his live call-ins after each inning as well from American Family Field. So we'll hear from Mitch Nellis throughout the game, Thunder himself. Charlie, your thoughts on what happened last night in another Cubs loss?
Andrew Vaughn is the man, dude. That's it. That's all I can think of. Me and my dad were texting about the game afterwards. He's at this game right now. But all we could talk about was, this is just crazy. And my dad is a diehard Cubs fan, so he's not like me where he's a little bit of both. I can cheer for the Brewers.
So he's wearing Cubs stuff there?
He's wearing Cubs stuff.
Well, he grew up in Wrigleyville, right?
Yeah, he grew up right around there. So
understandable.
He's cheering for the Cubs. But he was mad. He's like, I hate the White Sox. Now I hate the White Sox even more because they gave the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that I usually hate if they're playing the Cubs, a guy that is just killing the Cubs right now. And it's just, he's
killing everybody. He killed the Marlins, too. He had 5 hits in that series. He led off this game with a base hit as well, did Andrew Vaughn. So, yeah, Vaughn is definitely the story for certain. And like we talked about, that last time the Brewers went on to run the playoffs was 18. That was a Jesus Aguilar year where he had, 30-plus home runs. Nobody thought Aguilar was going to be that necessarily, but it all clicked that year in the way he went. And maybe that's going to be Andrew Vaughn here in the second half where it's just going to click and he's going to be a beast. MLB Network made a comparison for Andrew Vaughn that blew my mind. And we will play that back for you coming up after the game is done. We'll go over that. We'll get the highlights, a little like a mini post-game show, and talk about the Brewers and the Cubs series overall now that it will be done after today. And then you've got 5 games coming up in Wrigley starting August 18th. So you get about 2 weeks here, and then you get 5 games. It starts with a day-night doubleheader on Monday the 18th, and it's 5 straight, baby. If you want to talk about the division being won or lost, it could be won or lost in those 5 games over 4 days at that point. Because if somebody rolls off 5 in a row, or 4 of 5, that could be the difference as far as who's going to win this division, depending on where everybody is in the standings going into this thing. I mean, you think about it, if the Brewers or Cubs, whoever it may be, let's say they're down 2.5 going into that series, and all of a sudden, now you add 3 or 4 more games back on top of that, it's over. Division may be won after those 4 days are done, Charlie. That's a gigantic series.
It could be, but also as we've seen at the beginning of the year when the Cubs looked like they had ran away with the division in the first couple months of the year, anything can really happen at this point. The Brewers found their way back into this division race and took the division in the matter of 2 weeks, it felt like. So I can't count anybody out at this point. The Reds are making moves to try to make themselves, I guess, a little bit more competitive at this point. They trade for Brian Hayes from Pittsburgh. It's not really an offensive threat, but he's one of the best defensive third basemen in the league, so maybe that'll help them out a little bit. I can't count anybody out at this point that's still trying to compete.
He is Charlie Hughes, Sparky Fifer with you. Coming up on today's show, Joe Bartel, fantasy football for RotoWire, and was our guy every Friday on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's throughout the football season last year. And wanted to get his thoughts as training camp's underway. Kind of an early fantasy football preview, I guess you could say. Because once we hit August, what I've learned over the last few years is people are doing their fantasy football drafts earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. Back in the day, you would wait to the weekend before football kicked off, which is Labor Day weekend, and that's when people would do it. Now I feel like everybody goes out of town Labor Day weekend and so forth, and they don't want to be pulled away from their family on vacation and whatever. So people are doing fantasy football drafts even earlier. So we'll get a little bit of an early fantasy football preview with Joe Bartel coming up at 2:40. Then our Green and Gold update, normally we do at 4, but I think we're going to be somewhere around the game ending at 4, and I don't want to be tied to the Packers at 4 o'clock. So we're moving up the Green and Gold update brought to you by the Potawatomi Sportsbook to 3:20. Ryan Wood of the Green Bay Press Gazette will join us coming up at 3:20. Lots to discuss with Ryan Wood from what happened in yesterday's practice, comments that we'll get to from Tucker Kraft. We'll talk about that in the next segment. First time I've really seen somebody really kind of go at LaFleur from a player perspective. So we'll talk about that with Ryan Wood. We'll talk about the feistiness and the extracurricular activities at practice yesterday with Ryan Wood. And then the coordinators all talked today as well. So we'll get his thoughts on some of what they had to say too. So that comes up at 3:20. So it's going to be a jam-packed show. Now, we're going to start with the Green Bay Packers, obviously. And the reason we're going to start with it has to do with Rob Demovsky of ESPN. Is there any other beat writer's head who is photographed more and put on social media more than Rob Demovsky's bald head? I ask you.
I don't think so. I think they just can't keep away from it.
No, they can't. Schneidman's taking pictures. Everybody's always taking pictures of the backside of Demovsky's bald head.
Well, because it's always glistening, too, at the camps and stuff,
It's sweaty. Isn't it sweaty?
Yeah, it's pretty sweaty.
It's sweaty, so yeah.
That's the problem with being bald. You can't hide it then. You know, when you have hair, you can hide the sweat in the hair. When you're bald, it's all out for everybody.
Can I just say, I also don't understand. I mean, I know y'all think you look good, and maybe women like it, but the people that are losing their hair, they decide, you know what, screwed. I'm just gonna shave it all off. I don't get that either. I know a lot of people think it's great. But I'm just not a big fan.
One day you have pretty good hair for your age, Sparky. One day you may be in the same boat.
No. Mm-mm. My head is way too gigantic to be shaving it at that point. No, I'm definitely never shaving my head.
Add it to the toy drive donation bucket list.
I will say this. There may be a mohawk coming here next month in August.
Okay.
I may go back to my mohawk that I used to have because my kid loves having mohawks. He has mohawks all the time. So I said, I'll tell you what, maybe I'll do a mohawk with you before you go back to school in September. We can both do a mohawk. Because he saw pictures of me with a green mohawk back in the day. I've had a green mohawk here. I've had a red mohawk. I've had a blue mohawk. Yeah, so I've done the mohawks previously. So I may go back to a mohawk, shave off some of my gray hair, and go with a mohawk. Be the oldest dude walking around with a mohawk, but that's all right. Rob Demovsky of ESPN, like I said, he was on ESPN. They were in Green Bay, talking about the Packers and training camp and so forth. And this is how it went.
Matt LaFleur knows how to win. In fact, since he's arrived here in Green Bay, no team in the NFC has won more games. What are the expectations now for this Packers team?
Shay, in the last segment, you mentioned the new locker room that's been renovated. If you walk down that hall, you'll notice that there's banners. There's 13 of them for each championship they've won, 1929 to 2010. And after 2010, there's a blank one. This team knows that that's the expectation. I talked to cornerback Nate Hobbs, who came here in free agency, and I asked him if he noticed that empty banner, and he said right away, and it's been too long of a gap between 2010 and now. General Manager Brian Gutekunst, who has put this young team together, has said several times, it's time we make this step forward. He said in his opening press conference a couple days ago, we've had a lot of regular season success around here, but it's time we take that next step. And Jordan Love said it is definitely time.
Okay, so they're talking about championship banners being hung up at the training facility and so forth and in the stadium, and it's been too long since the magic carpet ride season where Rodgers and that team got themselves to a Super Bowl. I would agree. It's been too long. Yeah, we're both on the same page on that one, right? The question, though, is, do you think the Packers have a Super Bowl caliber roster? Is this team, when you look at it, a team that you say, oh, yeah, this is Super Bowl. They can go Super Bowl. I'll give you an example. When Brett Favre and Leroy and Gilbert and Santana and all those guys, when they went to that first Super Bowl, going into that season, everybody thought they were going to be the team in the NFC. They were all concerned that, if they have to go to Dallas, it may not happen. But on paper, they were going to be, the team probably going in that everybody looked at that roster and said, they're really good. Then after they win the Super Bowl, you come back the next year. Again, everybody looking at that team going, they're going to repeat. They're going to go back and do this again. They're still really, really good. So those 2 years, I think if you talk to media members that cover those teams and so forth going in, I think everybody was pretty much in agreement that, yes, if they don't go to the Super Bowl, it might be a story, and everybody would guess that it would be because they have to go to Dallas, where they couldn't ever win against Troy Aikman and company. But outside of that, there's no reason they shouldn't go. I don't think I have that same vibe necessarily for the Green Bay Packers right now. Having said that, back then, when that was going on, you had three superior teams in the NFC that were battling year in and year out to go from the NFC, right? You had the Niners and Young, Aikman and the Cowboys, Favre and the Packers. Those were the three teams that were battling seemingly every year to make the run in the playoffs, to get themselves to the Super Bowl and so forth. Now, as we sit here today, this is a much different landscape, in my opinion, in the National Football League, and specifically in the NFC as we sit here. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are clearly the team to beat in the NFC. Then I think there's a gap. I don't know if there are 3, 4, 5 teams that you would say are definitely in the Philadelphia Eagles same category, same tier from a talent standpoint and a roster standpoint going into the season. So my answer to this is no, I don't think that necessarily this team has a Super Bowl caliber roster at this point. That does not mean they won't go to the Super Bowl. That does not mean that, they won't do great things this year. But I'm just saying, as we look at the talent on paper, knowing what has not happened in that front seven for the last several years, knowing all the question marks at cornerback that you have going into this season, yeah, I'm not there. I'm not ready to say that this is a Super Bowl roster. What about you? Nicolay Law Fan Talk at text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Sound out with a recorded voice message on the Odyssey app, Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. And don't forget, you can watch us on YouTube, baby. We are streaming right there on YouTube with the @ symbol, at The Fan Milwaukee. In fact, I went on to Google, and I'm sure Charlie could do the same thing. If you just type in The Fan Milwaukee, it'll bring you to the webpage. You don't even have to worry about putting the @ symbol. That'll bring you right there if you put it all together. But if you just type in The Fan Milwaukee into YouTube, it'll bring you right to our page. So that might be the easier thing to say versus me continuing to say, use the @ symbol.
I mean, both work. You can just say, at The Fan Milwaukee. That's why I say when we're doing Wisconsin Sports Weekend, I'm like, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube all at The Fan Milwaukee, because then you can just put it all together,
Correct. Absolutely.
Easy.
So, go check us out. We're live streaming. We put up shorts. We put up videos, all that fun stuff. Check it out on YouTube for all of our local shows, whether it's Pack a Day in the Morning with Andy Herman from 8 to 9, the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nellis, brought to you by Verizon from 9 to 11, this show from 2 to 5, the leadoff show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, or on Saturday mornings from 9 to 11, Wisconsin Sports Weekend with Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke. What say you, Charlie Usen? Do you think this is a Super Bowl caliber roster as we sit here right now?
Only because of how open the NFC seems at this moment outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if this was one of these years where it was like the NFC Beast, where they had the Eagles, the Cowboys, Washington, and the Giants all fighting for playoff spots, no, I wouldn't feel like the Packers were a Super Bowl caliber roster as they sit. Right now, though, with the Eagles being the only like standout team, I would say yes. I feel like they have the talent on this roster in order to get to that point. The problem is I also feel like everybody keeps pointing out, and I know I hate this excuse, but they're a young, more experienced team that are still going to make mistakes this year. And I think if it were any other year, those mistakes would probably be pretty detrimental to them, at least at some point in the season. This year, they don't really have that type of competition around them, though. They have a lot of other teams that are going to be in the same boat.
Correct.
A lot of other teams that are going to be making small mistakes because they're inexperienced.
That parity is real.
It helps you out a little bit.
Yes, that parity is real. But they're definitely not a team that's looking at around them and saying, yep, it's us. You have to go through Green Bay in order to get to the Super Bowl, right? That's not the situation we currently have with the Green Bay Packers. Now, tomorrow, if we do our show rundown, I do want to do a topic. I don't know if you saw on ESPN, Seth Walder put together a piece talking about teams and trades that they should make. He had like 5 or 6 of them. The very first one involves the Green Bay Packers. And he suggests that they gave up a 2nd-round pick to get Thibodeau from the New York Giants in a trade. And Thibodeau is not making any money of significance necessarily. This year he's making like $1.1 million. Next year I think it jumps to $13 or $14 million or something like that. And then he's a free agent after that. Right? He's 23, 24 years old, still old. They just drafted Abdul Carter. They traded for Burns before last year from the Carolina Panthers, right? So is there really room for him in that edge room when you're having to have those 2 guys in front of him already? He has been inconsistent as well. Now, if you go out and you add a Thibodeau as an edge rusher, like Seth Walder says the Packers should do, and maybe you revisit the conversation. The guy that I wanted, Trey Hendrickson, decided he didn't want to pay $50,000 a day to miss camp, so he reported. Charlie, I went and I quickly just guesstimated that it's like 45 days or so of training camp, right, and all that.
Right.
He would owe just over $2 million, like $2.3 million, if he decided he was going to hold out and not come to training camp, not play preseason, nothing. He'd right around $2 to $3 million. I mean, I know that's a lot of money to you. That's a lot of money to me. I understand. But from his perspective, clearly he doesn't want to give up a couple $1 million by trying to prove a point and holding out.
No, and I don't really think it's worth it to him either. That's a lot of money to him, too, even a guy that's made millions of dollars in his career already. I think that's still a pretty big deal. And also, he probably loves playing football, and this is probably frustrating that he has to go through this and miss time with people that he does like being around, his teammates, and now it's because the front office doesn't want to pay him. And it probably feels like he's getting pretty close to a deal, too, at the same time, with Shamar Stewart getting his deal and kind of getting that figured out a little bit. He's now should be the main focus.
That's the thing, too, is that when we sit here and we talk about these guys that hold out, but all these guys that were mad about their contracts are all sitting in camp now. McLaurin's not even practicing. He's just sitting on the sidelines watching. Yeah, should still be finding that dude 50 G's if he ain't going to practice. Like, what is the point of having Hendrickson there if he is not going to practice? So he's not going to find 50 G's, but he ain't going to do nothing. Right? Shouldn't you still be finding them if they're not going to work out?
I mean, yes.
You could sit in a classroom and nap, I guess. But, I mean, that's about the extent of it.
He could also not be there, and I think there's some value to him at least having some kind of presence on the sideline. It gives you some kind of hope, and I think, yes, you want to punish him for not practicing, but at the same time, you have to take your little victories as the team and find any way to keep the relationship alive if you want to keep him in-house.
He's Charlie using Steve Sparky Fifer with you, asking you whether or not you think that the Brewers have a Super Bowl caliber roster. Rob Domofsky was just on ESPN talking about it and saying they're looking at this empty banner, right, hanging there in the facility and said, hey, man, we got to fill that up. It's been too long since we've won a Super Bowl. That's kind of been the mantra. Hey, William Contreras, 2 home runs in this game now. William Contreras, 2 home runs in this game now? Woo, buddy. After he hit the first home run in this game, I tweeted out, if he gets going, watch out for this offense if he figures it out here. That's his 5th career multi-home run game. Last one was last year against the Mariners. He had 2.
I love to see it. You know?
If Contreras gets going, and again, Churio's got to be okay, right? We're still waiting on Churio, but providing Churio is okay and Yelich does his thing, Contreras' offense picks up. That is going to be a huge bonus for the Milwaukee Brewers. And the other thing about this is, then we're going to hear from Mitch Thundernellis here after the 4th, but the other thing about this is you're down 5-2. We talked about this the other day, Charlie. When they were down 3-0, I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. And right now, I'm being honest with you, down 5-2, I was like, whatever, fine. Like, not all that concerned. All I want is to get to that damn bullpen. And the problem is Imanaga is under 60 pitches still. And we're in the 4th inning. They need to get him to about 90 or so because I'm sure Counsell, the trader, doesn't want to have to go to his bullpen any earlier than probably the 7th or the 8th at this point.
Probably not. I would want to avoid that at all costs. You've had to go to your bullpen a couple times here in just this series, not let alone you had to go there a bunch of times against the White Sox too. This is a really frustrating position to be in. I think right now the Brewers just have to hope that anybody outside William Contreras and Andrew Vaughn just start getting going, and they could have some success going here.
All right, let's take a quick timeout. Come back on the other side. Brewers losing 5-2. We'll talk more about this with Mitch Thundernellis when he joins us after the bottom of this inning. So that might be coming out of the next commercial break. But coming up next, we have a player that is not being shy about his unhappiness towards Matt LaFleur. And I think he might be the first one that really has kind of had issue with Matt LaFleur publicly. But it's because LaFleur called him out publicly before practice yesterday, and this player went back at Matt LaFleur after practice. Interesting things because he's a key cog in this Packers offense. We'll talk about that coming up next. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome back. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily, serving up by Wendy's, live from the Fan Studios. See Sparky Fifer with you. Charlie using other side of the glass. I don't know if you saw this or not. I got an email from The Athletic in my thing. Shannon Sharp done at ESPN.
Ooh.
After rape lawsuit settlement.
Ooh.
ESPN has cut ties with NFL Hall of Famer and media analyst Shannon Sharp less than 2 weeks after he settled a lawsuit in which his ex-girlfriend accused him of rape. Sources briefed on the decision told The Athletic on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's not a great look for Shannon there. That's a little unfortunate.
See, that's the thing that I'm interested by. That he still has his deal where he's doing his podcast, right? The Shay Club or whatever the hell it's called. Not that I listen to it because I definitely do not listen to it, but he still has the podcast. So he's still going to have that avenue to make the money and so forth. Okay, fine. But he's burned the bridge at FS1, so I don't think he's going back there. Now he's toasted himself at ESPN. So really, the only other network he has to go to that he hasn't been at is CBS Sports Network, right? That's kind of the only one left. And they don't really do any real big-time shows, necessarily. I mean, Shannon Sharp could help with CBS Sports Network TV version of it, maybe on the map a little bit if he were to land over there, if they'd even be interested in dealing with him. The other opportunity would be the NFL Network. But there's all this talk of ESPN and NFL Network becoming one, which means not going to get a job there either if that little deal ends up going down that way, Charlie.
Yeah, that would be just kind of a whole throw a wrench in all of this. Like, this is just crazy. And again, with all the other stuff that's happening legally with all these other leagues, this is just another thing to add on to this big whole question about the way media is covered, all the way that these leagues are doing and operating goes with how the media is operating as well. This is all just a big story all coming together, man.
All right, joining us now, he is our guy, Mitch Thunder Nellis from the Mason Crosby Show, weekday mornings, 9 to 11, brought to you by Verizon. Joins us now on the Fangas Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. Thunder's at American Family Field. Thunder, what's the latest?
Well, not the performance that Brewers fans were hoping for from Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta goes 4 innings, gives up 5 runs on 5 hits and 4 walks, only 3 strikeouts. His ERA is now above 3 at 3.08. We're in the top of the 5th. The Cubs are leading 5-2. Not only did Freddie Peralta not have the performance we wanted him to, but some guy we've never heard of before had a 3-run double. Moises Ballesteros. I don't know if he's related.
They
to
just called him up after Ian Happ got put on the IL yesterday, yeah.
Exactly. I don't know if he's related to the old golfer Seve Ballesteros. But he had a 3-run double. Freddie was flirting with danger through the first few innings, and Moises got to him. On the bright side for the Brewers, there's been one player who's the bright side. His name is William Contreras. 2 solo home runs. We've talked, I think ad nauseum over the past month about his lack of power this season. Well, maybe he's finally getting hot because he is up to 8 home runs and 45 RBI. His slugging percentage is finally greater than his on-base percentage, which had been a cause for concern for the past couple of weeks. But besides William Contreras, somebody else has to get hot. They're only down 3. It's the top of the 5th. TL Hall's in. This game by no means is over, especially after what we saw 2 days ago, but the Brewers need their bats to get a little hotter than just William Contreras.
Thunder, Brewers to Cub fans, what kind of ratio are we talking about here?
I mean, Cubs fans are loud today. I will say it was the worst entrance to American Family Field / Miller Park / County Stadium that I've ever experienced. I think Drew Wagner and I both sat on the off-ramp from 94 on to Brewers Boulevard for an hour.
Oh, my goodness.
Trying to get into the stadium. I think it was partly the rain, partly the number of buses and groups that are here. There were buses that were sitting there not moving for an hour. It looks like everybody's in here by now. I think everybody probably got in by the 3rd inning or so, but it was an absolute mess outside, trying to get into this park. And I think part of that is the number of Cubs fans. It does seem more than the past 2 nights. I'd say, the last 2 nights, if it was 60-40 Brewers fans, it feels more like 50-50, but it also feels, first of all, Cubs fans are going to be louder when they're at a visitor's park. And with the way the game has gone, Cubs fans have had a reason to be louder than Brewers fans.
Yes, no question about it. And like you said, long way to go. A 3-run deficit isn't that big of a deal for this Brewers offense as of late, at least. So I just keep saying, get into the Cubs bullpen, and then let's see if they can survive this Brewers offense once we get to that point. Thunder, thank you so much.
I was going to say, Sparky, Imanaga's 68 pitches through 4 innings, so he's had a number of pitches. If they can get one more inning and get a good, decent number out of him, get into that bullpen, you're absolutely right, because they have feasted on the bullpen this series so far.
He is Thunder.
They just got out of the top of the 5th by a comebacker that DL Hall, I think, protected any future livelihood he may have, if you get my drift. He snagged the ball before it made contact, and I was able to throw out the last out, but it was a nice little snag by him. He
underhanded that ball to first base and damn near one-hopped it to him.
Yes. No, he did one-hop it to him. I think he thought he was closer than he was. I think he was also still just like praying to whatever God he prays to that he protected his future
he's fine.
His future generations there.
That's why you wear a cup. All right, thank you so much, Thunder.
Thanks, Sparky.
Okay, there he is, Mitch Thunder Nellis. Does a cup really matter? Like
people don't wear cups, man.
Let me tell you something. Stupid people don't wear cups. I can't tell you how many times in watching travel baseball I've seen a kid, especially catchers, get drilled, and then they're on the ground, and the coach is like, "Do you have your cup on?" "Oh, no." The kid wore a cup rest of the year. Every time it happens, nobody ever wants to wear one. And then when something bad happens and they're in a hospital, in an emergency room, like in all kinds of pain, I'll never not wear one again. Well, yeah, but it shouldn't have to take it to that point to get it. I don't understand. Football players, y'all do what you want. Baseball players, baseball hits you there, exit velocity of about 95 to 100, and you don't want to wear a cup? Okay, man.
Catch the ball.
Godspeed to you if that thing doesn't go right. That's all I know at the end of the day. All right, so we got some stuff I wanted to get to here, and man, we are running tight on time again, Charlie. Now what do I do? Now I got like 4 or 5 minutes. I do not want to burn any of this. Right?
Yeah, this is pretty good stuff. I think I want to hear what you think of Tucker Kraft's response, for sure.
Right, but I don't want to burn it here. So, like, we can just hold on to this and do it maybe at 3 o'clock.
I think so.
And then we hold the 3 o'clock topic maybe till tomorrow, and then we hop into the 3 o'clock topic tomorrow at that point. Yeah, I know. I do want to get into this conversation, though, about LaFleur and said player not yelling, but having their issues back and forth. LaFleur before practice, and then the player responding after practice. Here's something I can talk about quickly here. On ESPN, they did a piece about which players are worth first-round picks, right, if you were to make a trade or whatever the case may be. The Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love is worth 2 first-round picks, according to this, right. 1 first-round pick worthy, Matthew Golden, Zach Tom, Adrian Cooper, Xavier McKinney, all worth 1 first-round pick, according to this piece. Now, the one that's not on there, that maybe you would expect to be on there, is Elton Jenkins. He's not on that list. I don't think anybody would think Rasheed Walker deserves to be on that list, even though he's a starting left tackle in the league. Your own team doesn't trust him. So what makes you think anybody else is going to go out and give you a first-round pick for Rasheed Walker? I think that's a pretty fair assessment by ESPN as far as giving up first-round picks. The Adrian Cooper one, I don't think anybody would give you a 1 for Adrian Cooper. Do you? You think if Goody said Adrian Cooper's available that the Lions or the Vikings are giving you a 1 for Adrian Cooper? I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know. I look at that list, and to me, I think that to get a starting quarterback of the caliber of Jordan Love, it probably takes more than 2 first-round picks if we're being honest. I would say that's probably a 3 first-round pick package in my mind. And then I also feel like the guys that they had in the worth 1 first-round pick, I don't know if those guys are worth first-round picks. Especially the way that NFL teams do trade for players.
So you're saying Zach Tom's not worth a first-round pick?
I don't think so. I think if they were to have traded him this offseason, they wouldn't have gotten a first-round pick.
Xavier McKinney?
I don't think they could get a first-round pick for him.
Because he's a safety?
I think so. I think just that position is a little undervalued in the league. I think that the money that he's getting is going to be a contingent for other teams. They're going to be saying, we want a discount. At least make us give a second-round pick instead of a first-round pick for an overpaid safety in our mind. I don't know. Just teams don't pay for players like those guys. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that would be a fair trade in my mind based on how these teams go about making moves.
All right. The other part about this that I find interesting is, do you think they could get 2 ones for Jordan Love?
Yeah. I think they could get 3 ones for Jordan Love.
How many?
3 ones.
No way.
Do you feel like he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL in your mind?
All I ever see on TV are people doubting him. People going, wow, we'll see what he's all about this year.
Just wait till sound of the day. Not everybody on TV is doubting him.
Okay, man, not everybody. But, I mean, seriously, you think that they would get 3 ones for Jordan Love if they put him available?
I think as what we're seeing from teams like the Chicago Bears, the Indianapolis Colts right now, they're having the worst QB competition of all time that I've ever witnessed. It's bad. The value in finding a franchise quarterback, I think, is almost immeasurable for a lot of teams in the NFL. And I think if you have somebody like Jordan Love, who at this point in his career, I think has proven that he can at least be a capable starter in this league, if not a star quarterback in this league, is going to be worth giving up a couple years of your franchise, for sure.
He is Charlie using C Sparky Fifer with you. Coming up next, we'll get to Joe Bartel, fantasy football for RotoWire. He was our guy on Fridays throughout the season. We'll get a little fantasy football preview for you going into, with the start of training camps going on right now. See what he thinks of some of the rookies, some of the different players changing teams. We'll do all that coming up straight ahead. Here's a side never to skip breakfast again. Wendy's breakfast biscuits are just $1. Your choice of buttermilk biscuit with grilled sausage or bacon with egg and melty cheese, or even the honey buddy with juicy chicken and maple honey butter. For just $1, you can't go wrong, unless you forget, of course, to add the delicious seasoned potatoes or the warm, fluffy French toast sticks, or even the ooey gooey Cinnabon. Come on, start your day the right way with Buck Biscuits at Wendy's. Don't look back. Limited time only. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Yep. I feel that way sometimes about some Brewers fans right now. I really do. This morning, to give you an example, I was not having a great morning again, right? Just not. And I wasn't having a great morning because I forget everything, right? And yet again this morning, I forgot something. I had to turn around, go all the way back home, threw off my whole morning. Besides that, I was in a bad mood. Then my buddy calls me, and he wants to start talking about the trade deadline like Tommy was just doing to me in the commercial break. And like I was doing to Tommy, I started yelling and screaming at him. Charlie, I yelled and screamed at him so bad, I finally said, dude, I'm done. I got to go. Click. I hung up the phone on him. I was livid. I was like, every time I talk about this, I get angrier by the moment. And then I felt so bad a couple hours after that, I texted him and I apologized. I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I had a bad morning. I'm sick of talking about the stupid trade deadline. So, I'm sorry. He started laughing. He's like, you're good. Don't worry about it. I was like, I'm telling you, this trade deadline, infuriating to me right now. Infuriating. All right. Let's see where we going now. Well, we got a guest. Joe Bartel, fantasy.
Still waiting on him. He's got the invite link. He hasn't showed up yet.
Well, text that fool and see if he's going to come on or not, man.
There he is. He just showed up.
See? He's 2 minutes late. It's all right, though. We'll forgive him. Meanwhile, what we didn't tell you was it's 5-3 now. Blake Perkins came around to score, which was nice on a sacrifice fly because that's how we do things. South Philly hit the ball, and me and Tommy at least thought he had gotten hold of it. He didn't, though. So 5-3 runner on first base. Isaac Collins up. Now a 2-run deficit in the bottom of 5 at American Family Field. Isaac Collins just struck out. That should be it for Imanaga, right? We think Imanaga is done now after 5?
I think so.
They had a guy warming up.
They should probably take him out.
That means we get the bullpen for the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. That's a win for the Brewers. 4 innings of relief work for the Cubs.
So
let's go.
Now they're going to have 12 straight strikeouts in the game.
Who?
The Cubs are going to strike out the Brewers because you said something, Sparky.
Yeah. In between the 10 runs the Brewers score, you'll probably get your 12 outs on strikeouts maybe. But, hey, Brewers going to let the scoreboard. Not Charlie. Here we go.
Oh, I see.
Here we go. Joining us now on the FanCast Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. He is Joe Bartel. Fantasy football for Roto Wire. Follow him on Twitter at JB Fantasy Sports. It's been a minute, Mr. Bartel. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I might have selfishly been watching Joey Ortiz actually get a hit before I hopped on. So it's good to know that you updated me that they did score a run. I didn't want to stick around for all of that.
Yeah, Collins then struck out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where we are from a fantasy football perspective, right? So when I was growing up and I was playing, and I didn't stop really playing like I used to be in like 7 leagues. So I didn't really pull that back until within the last like 7 to 10 years, I kind of pulled that back. But normally every year you would go in and have a good idea of the top few picks and so forth. You felt really confident of what it was, and you had a good idea of what the first 5 or 6 picks were going to be. Then maybe there was some debate the rest of the first round. Are you confident in what, say, the first 5 picks are going to be and what order they're going to be in as we sit here today?
Yes, I would say to a degree. I think you could know that I've made the argument now in a bunch of different podcast formats that I think the first round this year, I really have zero issue with the first 12 picks. There has been some people, and I think this is a correct statement, there's effectively 15 first-round picks in the first 12, 15 picks. Right?
Are any Packers?
Jacobs is probably the mid-second round pick. He's the first one to go. He would not be, I think, in that category. So whether it's some combination of Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb, that's normally how the first 5 or 6 picks end up going. But to what degree people have them ranked, I think it's up for debate at least.
Bijan Robinson? Listen, I loved Bijan Robinson coming out of school. I did. And then that first year, I was like, oh, boy, this is not turning out the way that I thought it was going to turn out. And then last year, he got better, yeah. But now this year, you're giving a Michael Penix at quarterback. That is a huge mystery box at this point. And all we've been talking about so far in the beginning of training camp is how Kyle Pitts is finally going to have his breakout year after being in the league for 10 years. It's not been 10 years, but it feels like it. And so now we're going to see more Kyle Pitts. Sell me on Bijan Robinson. Sell me that they know actually how to use him now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great call. A lot of people often do the Family Guy reference where, this mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat when he has an opportunity right there. I think the opposite of this is Kirk Cousins was awful. Objectively, really, really bad last year, to the point where I thought there's no way they go to Michael Penix until year 3 when that Cousins contract is done. Of course, go to the end of last season. He's obviously going to stick around as the starter this year. That Michael Penix is going to be, I think, by default, an upgrade over Bijan Robinson, and Robinson still had 1,600 total yards last year, 15 touchdowns. That's an easy selling point to say this guy, relative to the volume issues that you might have for Saquon Barkley, 408 touches last year, including the postseason. Jahmyr Gibbs splits time with Dave Montgomery. Of those 3 top running backs, Bijan, I think, clearly has the most defined role and expectation to be a fantasy relevant factor. That Kyle Pitts may or may not do anything, that we've heard that siren song now the past 3 years.
Yes, we have.
Does not impact it at all. In my mind, it's Drake London and it's Bijan Robinson. And if the Falcons are going to do anything in the NFC South, it's dependent on those 2 guys, not just producing from an NFL perspective, but fantasy-wise, living up to their ADP. So I will be drafting Bijan Robinson as the first running back. And yeah, you might have been upset about what happened his rookie year, but last year, again, over 1,600 total yards and 15 touchdowns. That was in a worse offensive system than I think we'll see with Michael Penix here.
Is that Ballesteros that just hit another Oh, no, that was Dansby Swanson.
Dansby Swanson,
Thank God. So it doesn't really matter, though. Swanson and RBI double, not 6-3 Cubs over the Brewers as we sit at this point here, top of 6. So my other thing about this is so often you go into a season, you're really excited about different rookies, and then most of the time they let you down. They don't pan out till their second or their third year, right? And then you don't have them anymore, and you're like, damn it, I knew he was going to be good, but of course when I had him, he didn't do jack. So tell me the 2 or 3 rookies that you're high on as we sit here today.
Yeah, last time we talked, it was actually at the NFL draft. I came on the live studio and got to do that with you guys. That was a lot of fun. I did call it correctly that they were going to take a receiver in the first round.
You did?
I didn't know if it was going to be Matthew Golden or not. That was pretty cool. We've had this conversation in past years as well, too, where I think the rookie receiver class in particular will get pushed up in fantasy often because we've seen Brian Thomas, even Justin Jefferson his rookie year, Jamar Chase. A lot of these receivers of the past 4 or 5 years have been really, really relevant fantasy-wise. I don't think that applies this year. Now, you do need to go in entering your fantasy drafts knowing you want to take Travis Hunter or not. I don't want to make that risk or assumption it's going to be all offense.
Did you hear what he said yesterday? I think it was yesterday. He plans on playing almost every snap of every game. That's his plan right now. Are they actually going to let him do that? That's what we need to see.
I would love to see an NFL player do that over the course of the season. It is yet to occur. And I think athletes like Deion Sanders or Bo Jackson would be able to do that more, and that has not been able to happen. So I don't think a guy like Travis Hunter, who is only 6 foot, sub 200 pounds, that he could stand up to tackling Jonathan Taylor and then going out and running 4 or 5 routes in a single drive or sequence. I don't believe that happens over the course of 17-game season. If you do, and if you think Travis Hunter is a talented enough receiver to benefit in that scenario, more power to you. His ADP, in my mind, average draft position is far too high for that. Ted McMillan, the other first-round rookie receiver that was drafted highly for the Panthers. Then there's a lot of bodies to feed in Carolina that I'm not going that direction. The rookie running backs, though, this is probably the most that we've had in terms of guys to draft and easy enough volume to do so that I've seen in some time. R.J. Harvey, Broncos guy, is kind of a sleeperish one in the 5th or 6th round. Caleb Johnson, of course, our Big Ten emphasis with Iowa, going to the Steelers, filling in the Najee Harris role. And then there's the 2 that are going to be drafted very high. Ashton Genty right now as a top 10 pick, and then Amari Hampton, post-Najee Harris superficial eye injury, is now more categorically a 3rd-round selection too. So those are your first 2 rookies off the board every single time, and I'll take both of them just about every single time. Genty more due to volume, but I think Hampton, if Najee Harris is to miss some sort of time, could really just be one of the stars, I think, from a draft value perspective right now.
I realize it's only training camp, but I saw a highlight or 2 so far in training camp for Brashard Smith of the Chiefs. He looks pretty good to me, man.
Yep. Brashard Smith. We have Elijah Mitchell as well, too, in that backfield. And I think Isaiah Pacheco right now, with where he is being drafted as a 7th or 8th round value, is one of the best spots. And this is my whole point, and we'll be talking about this many, many times, I imagine, throughout the course of the season. I'm going to end up waiting on running backs, at least my running back 2 position, because I can get a Pacheco, a Caleb Johnson. I can go get a Ramondre Stevens if I really want to, round 7 or later. And I think that's a really, really great spot to then load up on receivers early in your draft, tight end, quarterback, if you want to go that direction too. And I think Pacheco is the right answer to who has the obvious potential to boom above round 2, 3, 4 of their ADP where they're currently at again. average draft value. But I do like Brashard Smith as a pass catcher. I mean, there were instances for the Chiefs the past couple of years where Jerick McKinnon had fantasy relevance as a waiver wire pickup multiple times. And this is this Andy Reid offense that's still the same.
Yep.
If Brashard Smith can do that sort of thing for that offense, which is tough to ask for a rookie to do, you're getting him at like one of the very last picks in best ball drafts right now, probably in redraft leagues. You're not even going that direction yet. I think he is a very interesting selection if you believe the Chiefs offense, like I do, is going to be better this season.
Talking with Joe Bartel, Fantasy Football for RotoWire. Follow him on Twitter at JB Fantasy Sports. Joined us last year on Fridays during the football season. Hopefully we can be able to make something work again this year to have Joe on answering your fantasy football questions throughout the year on a Football Friday here on The Fan. All right, let's talk about that tight end position, because I think the tight end position is becoming in vogue again in the National Football League, where not only are teams wanting to make sure they have one, now teams are kind of eyeing up maybe trying to have two as well. Look at the Chicago Bears, for example.
Yeah, you might have been following my Twitter account. I've been posting about one particular rookie tight end on JB Fantasy Sports a lot. And I'll go out and say it right now for all you, the listeners. I think the fantasy value at the moment is Mason Taylor for the Jets. We'll get to him in a second. But talking about Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, who were both top 12, top 15 selections in this draft. And you look at Brock Bowers last year, of course, Sam Laporta, his rookie year as well, too. The tight end position is in vogue. I think that's correct. Now, my biggest concern is that NFL teams to date, and for a long, long time, you think about O.J. Howard as the perfect example to this.
Yeah.
Well, he's a really good run blocker, and then they don't actually use him at all in the passing game. Like you can be a relevant person for a football team at the tight end position and not be involved in the passing game. I think that's important, especially in the case of Colston Loveland, who I don't know. I mean, there was many instances with Ben Johnson's offense where Brock Wright, of all people, will be out there along with Sam Laporta. Like that two tight end facet for Ben Johnson and the Bears now does make a difference. It's Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. There's still Cole Kmet, though. And that's my biggest issue with this, that once Cole Kmet is gone, Colston Loveland becomes more of a fantasy factor. Right now, Loveland's being drafted as tight end 11, normally like your 9th or 10th round selection. I'm not going down that route. I don't know if I want to buy into the Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson offense with the Colts, so Tyler Warren is also not of interest to me. I have been just literally not drafting a tight end until one of my last picks, and this worked out a couple of years ago when I got rookie tight end Sam Laporta correct. I don't think that Mason Taylor will operate the same way as Sam Laporta, but you can literally get Mason Taylor for free right now. And outside of Garrett Wilson, there is literally nobody else for the Jets to throw the football to other than the rookie Mason Taylor, who had late first-round buzz entering draft season. I think Mason Taylor is a good run blocker, so entering the O.J. Howard problem of things. But by default in today's NFL, there has to be at least two targets that have fantasy value. Why not the guy that has a lot of draft pedigree for the Jets and is effectively free right now? So Mason Taylor is, I think, my favorite sleeper in fantasy at the moment.
Where does Tucker Kraft rank amongst tight ends as we sit here today?
Right in that Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, David Njoku range, which is about round 9 or round 10. And I think he goes at tight end to 10. He is probably one of the highest risers at the moment. Not that everyone buys into training camp hype necessarily, but we've heard a lot of good things about Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden and Romeo Dobbs. That all happens like every other day. The consistent praise that we keep seeing right now in the fantasy community is Tucker Kraft is going to be a major target for Jordan Love. I have some reservations as a Packer fan because I've watched this unfold, and I really think Luke Musgrave is going to be a factor too, right? He was not a part of the offense basically all of last year, coming back this year. I think we'll cut into Kraft's time. But if we believe the Packers offense will pass more, and I do think they will with Jordan Love healthy, by default, Kraft is going to be the one that I think benefits in the red zone. So the ideal rule of thumb is either you are going to lead the team or second the team in targets or get 10-plus touchdowns. Kraft isn't going to lead the team in targets, but if he scores 10 times, that's a Robert Tonyan line. I wouldn't be surprised if that occurs at all, too. So Kraft, I would much rather have him over Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, who will go about 2 or 3 rounds earlier in drafts right now. I think Kraft is definitely a good value.
Brewers now down 8-3 as Kyle Tucker just roped one into the corner. Jared Koenig gives up that after DL Hall couldn't get anybody out in the 6th. This one may be starting to get away from the Brewers, down 5 now in the 6th. Time with Joe Bartel, Fantasy Football for RotoWire. Follow him on Twitter at JB Fantasy Sports. As we continue to talk about fantasy football and quarterbacks, where does Jordan Love rank right now, and is he a QB1 in fantasy right now?
Not right now, but he probably will be in the end of August. And I say it, I think people might have some like, why in the end of August? What's 30 days going to make a difference for it? There's a bunch of quarterbacks like Caleb Williams, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert that are all being drafted slightly ahead of him or kind of being in the same range. And I really think there's going to be a positive upswell of, man, Jordan Love looks good in camp. Think about the mobility and agility that he didn't have last year with all the lower body injuries that he's now displaying, that people are going to recognize, oh, yeah, this is the guy that threw 30 touchdowns just a couple years ago. And that was really over a 10-game span. With more offensive pieces, with Matthew Golden getting some positive hype, again, with Tucker Kraft conversation, Luke Musgrave coming back, there is no reason in my mind that if you're taking Jordan Love, it's not with the idea that he will be a quarterback one. And you could do it a little bit later. Bo Nix and Baker Mayfield are being drafted in the 7th or 8th round. I think Jordan Love is absolutely a quarterback on that same caliber, especially in the case of Bo Nix. So in my mind, you can typically choose to wait unless you're drafting Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, or Josh Allen. One of those 4 quarterbacks goes early on. If you're not taking one of those 4, waiting until one of your final few picks for Jordan Love to be your quarterback one is an absolute bet and upside. And in the worst case scenario where he doesn't, and that hurts all of us as Packer fans, you can draft Michael Penix or Matthew Stafford or even Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh if you want to. Like, there's a lot of available options super late in drafts that you're sort of protected in the worst case scenario for Love. So in my mind, it's a no-brainer. He's a quarterback one, but he's not being drafted like that.
So Josh Jacobs is a starter. I think Tucker Kraft ends up being a starter at tight end for leagues where you have to start a tight end. So I get down with that. Any receivers going to start in these fantasy leagues? Let's say it's 10 teams. Yeah, do any of these receivers start?
This is the fascinating question right now, and I think a lot of people are kind of muddled with this sort of thought process. At the moment, if you're in a 10-team league, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, and Romeo Doubs are probably outside of your starting roster. I would be drafting Jaden Reed in 12-team leagues as my wide receiver 4, often in the 7th or 8th round. And there is reason to believe, again, that Jaden Reed could be the primary target for this offense. I have made the case now for the past 2 or 3 years. Matt LaFleur doesn't want that. This isn't a Devontae Adams situation. Like, these guys are all siloed into a certain role within that scheme, whether it be Romeo Doubs in the 3rd round conversions, red zone opportunities. Jaden Reed does that crossing routes in the intermediate level. Matthew Golden runs straight down the field. Same with Christian Watson last year. Those can all be fantasy prominent things on a week-to-week basis, but here's my defined starter who I can put in each and every week. That does not come from the Packers receiving core yet. If we're to assume there is going to be a player, I still think it's Jaden Reed, but it's possibly also Matthew Golden, given the draft capital invested in him. And if Matthew Golden is as sure-handed as we kind of heard coming out of college, there is a role in that offense that we desperately needed, we as a Packer fan desperately needed last year, that I think Matthew Golden could rise above that. Will he be Devontae Adams in this offense? No. But if you're trying to speculate as to who could be, why not the guy that was a first-round pick for the first time in 21 years at the receiver position for the Packers?
He's playing really well in training camp early on, that's for sure. Joe Bartel, Fantasy Football for RotoWire. Follow him on Twitter at JB Fantasy Sports. Good stuff as always, Joe. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Take care. There he is, Joe Bartel. He was right there on your YouTube screen as well. Just search The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. Live streaming of all of our local shows. Subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. Share, as Charlie Houston says. Share the YouTube videos and stuff with your family and friends so they're aware of it too. Again, search The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube and it will bring you right to our page. Shorts, videos, live streaming, all kinds of fun stuff there on YouTube. Coming up on the other side, we're going to get into what happened involving Matt LaFleur and a player on this team. Matt LaFleur called out the player before practice yesterday, and then the player responded to the media after practice. Pretty sure this is the first time this has happened to LaFleur. We'll talk about that next. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's as we broadcast live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.